making more business friendly, but yet they turned right around and said, we're not going to tackle the packaged liquor. There's other things like that.
Well, I hope this time the liquor is going to be addressed, because I think there's enough consensus with the people that are running. That whole liquor issue is just nonsense. There is no reason, and it'd be good for the revenue of the community, because you've got so many people who, everybody talks about, we got all these people that come to Carbondale, they work and then they go home, and a lot of them, when they go home, they stop to get gas, or they stop to get groceries, and they can just, I'm not saying they're all drunks, my God, but they can stop and get a bottle of wine on the way home for dinner and then get a six-pack, and that's taxes that come to this community. And it can actually help the other businesses in the community with more sales. And you can make it more business friendly when you do that by not putting up the barriers that they were talking about when they were first proposing this. Well, you can't have it without having separate walls and separate clerks. Why? Go to St. Louis, you know, the people that screen you at Walmart over there, they look like the same people that are working Walmart any place. You don't have to screen them. And you can't have drive-ups. You ever been to the liquor stores here? What do? You drive up, so you can go to a gas station and get, it makes no sense. These were just, quite frankly, just nonsense false barriers to say, we want to protect the monopoly that exists, and that's, you know. Well, I think no matter who gets elected to the council this time, I think there's going to be enough consensus that that will change. How do you change a council? As a hospital administrator, on occasion I had to, quote, say, that's an order, we're going to do this. You couldn't do that very often or you'd fail. You got people to do what you wanted to be done and what you believed was the right thing to do by convincing them it was the right thing to do, getting them on board, and having them become the co-sponsors. That's what you got to do with the city council. It's no different than a group of doctors, a group of nurses, or anybody else you're dealing with. It's showing them, and they can also come back and show you, you're stupid, that's wrong, and pretty soon you go, yeah, it's pretty stupid. Well, we aren't going to do that. So, you know, it's not that you're going to get everything that, quote, you think you want, you know, approved.
It's all about the idea. If you come up with the best idea, who matters?
Yeah,
what
yeah.
difference does it make?
And the idea you come up with may be really stupid. And the neighbors all start coming in and saying, you know, you want to do that, but, you know, like they're talking about the chickens. I don't really care about the chickens, except my wife grew up on a farm. And she's got, when she heard about this with the chickens, she says, the raccoons are going to love it. They're going to love it. Because she said her dad, no matter what kind of latch he put on a chicken coop, the raccoons knew how to open it. She said they could open a bank. They would go and open, and then she'd hear all this ruckus at night. And I remember working in a zoo a long time ago, and the raccoons reminded me of monkeys. They made that kind of sound when they got really hyped up. And eating a chicken gets them pretty hyped up. So her father would go out with a shotgun and, you know, shoot the coon or something and run away. But the raccoon population is going to be very, very happy when we have chickens in this town. I'll say that much.
You know, one of the things, Mr. Maroney, that you were talking about earlier was the housing, pride in ownership, and housing and things like that. You know, Carbondale has a very large rental population of houses, which encompasses a lot of these neighborhoods that you were talking about, the older historical areas. A lot of that.
The Arbor District.
Yeah, became rental properties. Exactly in terms of zoning, what would you do? What things would you change, or what things would you enforce to make that situation better?
Well, what you change is getting with those, make sure the neighbors, you know, what they support. We've had issues in the past with the city council that have been very acrimonious, where in some cases the planning commission say, no, we aren't going to support that change, and the neighbors are very pleased, and the city council overrules them, or vice versa. There has to be a more of a sensitivity of the parties all coming together and say, okay, what do we really want for this type of neighborhood, what type of zoning? And it doesn't mean just the loudest neighbors. It means the neighbors, and bringing that all together. And you can't just have a dominant landlord, you know, exercising their clout over a lot of people that you know, that house is their castle. And we do have this mix in this community of 70-30 is the figure I keep hearing as far as rental versus private ownership. You'd like to see that changed. Hopefully it will be changed. It's going to take a long time to change that. It'll take a long time to change that to 65-35. But I think it can be done, and I think it can be done by people getting more involved with those neighborhoods, and the city going in and just doing a better job of working with the neighborhoods and the landlords. The students, they're such a very important asset in this community. And sometimes I listen to people in the community talk about the students. You'd swear they were talking about the Genghis Khan horde or something. It's just horrible. I mean, without the students, we don't have a town. We have nothing. The hospital wouldn't be what it is without these universities. The university helps attract physicians to come to the community, quite frankly. Makes the whole fabric of this community different. So you've got to respect and understand the needs of those students and the neighbors when you're looking at this whole issue, whether it be zoning or enforcement. And with the enforcement, that whole issue needs to be re-examined. The rules. Look at the election rules, okay? I think that's a prime example of why do we have the rules? Well, they're unenforceable. We can't enforce them. We won't enforce them. You know, when you can put up signs aside. None of that's enforceable because they're old, antiquated rules. And somebody needs to sit down and just start going through and see what you get rid of and then come up with the right, cogent, succinct set of rules. You know, people, they talk about neighborhoods. They act like I don't live in a neighborhood. I live in a neighborhood like everybody else in this community. And we have the same concern. I don't like the way the streets are right now. They aren't being cleaned properly. Somebody in the city made a decision to not get rid of the street sweepers. Well, they must have an interest in the windshield business in this town because they're going to promote the windshield business in this town. It also clogs up the storm sewers. You know, and things like that. Trash pickup, fire, police, all those types of things. The issues that I have in my neighborhood are the same basic issues people have in every neighborhood in this community, other than I don't have rentals in my neighborhood. But everything else is the same.
George, let me ask you this. There's a lot in city government that you wouldn't be able to control. You don't have any control over what the state sends your way monetarily. You can talk about it, but you know they hold the purse strings.
Mm-hmm.
And so there are a lot of things, but two areas of concern: growing pension obligation. I guess some improvements have been made, and
Not enough.
Yeah,
Not
talk
enough.
about that a little bit, and talk about bad investments by the city. I don't know why in the world the city got involved with the Stadium Grill. It doesn't seem to make any sense to me. It's a private business. I know it was a dilapidated area, but it was all that had been dilapidated already had been flattened, and then this project came along, and now the city's on the hook for it. And I'm not taking a position on Saluki Way, but some people feel that wasn't the business of the city either, throwing money in a place that doesn't belong.
Well, I won't make any statement with regard to Saluki Way because it's a done deal, it's over, and I think we need to move on. I would just make one statement on it. If I were at the university, and I think they need to think about this in the future for their priorities, if you're going to attract students to come to this university, you're going to do it based upon having good academic facilities. Having a new football stadium maybe attracts 6 big guys this year that you wouldn't have got if you didn't have it. That should not and cannot help the university grow. What's going to help this university grow is directing their resources into high quality academic resources. That's going to bring the students in. The Stadium Grill, I know a little bit about it. I know not too much about it. I'm sure there's some people besides the city that wish they hadn't. I'm sure there's a bank in town that wish they had never loaned that money. I guess the third owner of that building maybe will make some money on it when they pay 10 cents on the dollar. I think the city, and I don't know whether they use it or not, but I know there's like a revolving loan fund, and the money normally is loaned out by cities. I don't know if this is the case here, but the money is normally loaned out by cities, then it's paid back in. The problem with that is, if they don't get it back, it's no skin off the city's nose because, oh, we just have a smaller pool now. It is skin off the city's nose because that smaller pool, you wonder who evaluated the business plan, because they couldn't have had much of a business plan for a business that lasted 6-7 months, something like that. That just didn't make any sense. So I think there needs to be, here again, someone with more of a business background needing to instill and hold the city staff accountable, because I hope the city staff has made this decision, with regard to how you evaluate these types of opportunities and how you use those monies, because those monies, they just aren't out there the way they used to be. It's a very, very small pot, and they've got to be used for the most benefit. And a liquor food establishment does not serve the greater good as far as creating the type of jobs in numbers that you would like to see in this community. It usually creates one good job.
Yeah, the owners.
Or the manager, and that's about it.
Talk about crime a little bit. You need to do something about people's perception of crime and crime itself, as you've said. What kinds of things could a mayor do, and
well,
what would you do?
A mayor and a city council can hold people accountable. I'm not a cop. The first thing I did when I came to this hospital, I was here 32 years, 34 years now, is they had an armed security staff at the time. They carried 45s. You ever seen a 45?
It's a cannon.
It's a very big gun.
Right.
And I disarmed them. And they weren't happy about that, as I recall. And they wanted to keep their guns, and I felt no place for guns. And so I'm not a cop, but I think a city's elected leaders can take the pulse of the city and hold the city manager and the chief of police accountable for achieving certain targets. And one of the targets has to be, when you look at the measurements, and it goes back to how they measure schools, and they measure community safety the same way, and you can look at this community and other university communities, we don't do as well. I should have brought the sheet. I got a sheet that shows this for all the different communities.
Yeah, that would be interesting to look at, and we'll be talking to you again, so maybe that's something you bring for the session with the reporter.
And we have a resource here that, is so much better than other communities. Maybe we've got more problems, we get resource too. There's also that whole university police department.
Right.
And they need to be more proactive and do more. You hear just too many stories of the kids on campus who maybe aren't victimized, but just don't feel comfortable. And if a young person, does not feel comfortable in that situation, they aren't going to stay here. They aren't going to have their friends come here. Parents don't want their kid here. That has to change on campus. And that's where the university, I think, needs to do more over there with security, working with the Carbondale PD. And they need to look at how they enforce the code of conduct over there for students, and also how they bring students in. It's more than just, a grade point average. It's the whole background on the child before they come into this university.
Speaking of perceptions, one of the areas of town that's had a lot of bad perceptions of it over the years is the downtown area, including the Strip. It's been kind of a controversial place for a lot of years. Do you have any plans in terms of business development for the downtown area? Any ideas in terms of business development down in that area?
Well, downtowns as we know them in the past, they don't exist anymore. And it's with rare exception that they're going to be recreated. And I don't believe this is one of the exceptions. This community made a decision a long time ago to have a mall, and with the mall to have the Walmarts and the other businesses out there. And a very, very small segment of the community would say, well, we don't want any of that. We want the downtown to be vibrant again. They are such a distinct minority. People want the mall. That's where they like to spend their money. People may badmouth Walmart, but go out there, you get trampled by the people going in and out of it. They like Walmart.
Right.
They like to shop there, they like to save money there, they get better prices. Downtown, the way I envision it, can be a very good, far better than it is, student district. And that's where I think the emphasis needs to be. Creating an attractive student